If every tears you have ever cried could disappear forever, if every goodbye you have ever whispered could be erased, if death itself could become nothing more than a memory, would you believe it? For thousands of years, humanity has searched for a place where pain no longer exists, where fear has no voice, and where every broken promise is made whole again. Empires have risen believing they could build paradise on earth, yet every kingdom has eventually crumbled. Every generation has watched loved ones grow old. Every family has experienced loss, and every heart has carried burdens too heavy to explain. But hidden in the closing pages of the Bible is a promise unlike any other. It is not a dream imagined by philosophers or a legend passed down through generations. It is presented as the final chapter of God's plan for humanity, a future so extraordinary that the Apostle John struggled to find words capable of describing what he saw. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. To understand why the vision of the new heaven and the new earth has inspired hope for nearly 2,000 years, we must first travel to a lonely island in the middle of the Aegean Sea. Near the end of the 1st century, an elderly man named John found himself separated from the churches he loved. He had not arrived on that island as a traveler searching for peace or adventure. According to the biblical account, he had been exiled because of his testimony about Jesus Christ. The rocky island of Patmos was isolated, windswept, and far removed from the bustling cities of the Roman Empire. For many people, exile meant the end of influence and the beginning of silence. Yet it was in that place of isolation that one of history's most remarkable visions unfolded. John would later write that while he was in the Spirit on the Lord's Day, heaven itself was opened before him. What followed became the Book of Revelation, a record filled with symbols, prophecy, judgment, victory, and finally a breathtaking picture of eternity itself. By the time John's vision reached its final chapters, he had already witnessed scenes that no human mind could easily comprehend. He had seen kingdoms rise and fall, devastating judgments poured upon the earth, fierce spiritual conflict, and the ultimate defeat of evil. He described a future in which every force that had opposed God's purpose would face its final end. The powers that had deceived nations would no longer have authority. Death, described throughout Scripture as humanity's final enemy, would itself be defeated. For readers living under persecution during the Roman Empire, these words carried extraordinary meaning. They reminded believers that suffering would not write the final chapter of history. Across the centuries, people facing wars, disease, persecution, disasters, and personal heartbreak have returned to these same passages because they point toward a future that reaches far beyond the struggles of the present world. Then the vision changed. John wrote one of the most recognizable declarations in all of Scripture. "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away." This was not simply a repaired version of the old creation. It was a complete renewal. Throughout the Bible, creation had been affected by humanity's fall into sin. From the opening chapters of Genesis onward, the world experienced suffering, decay, conflict, and death. Now John witnessed the moment when everything broken would finally be restored. The old order, marked by corruption and sorrow, would give way to a creation untouched by pain. Imagine trying to describe colors no human eye has ever seen, or music beyond earthly understanding. John's language reflects that same challenge. He could only describe what he witnessed using images familiar to those reading his words, while pointing toward realities greater than earthly experience. As John continued watching, another astonishing sight appeared before him. He saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, descending from heaven prepared as a bride, beautifully adorned for her husband. Throughout biblical history, Jerusalem had represented God's relationship with his people. It had witnessed triumph and tragedy, worship and rebellion, construction and destruction. Yet the city John now saw was unlike any earthly capital. It came directly from God, radiant with his glory, and prepared for eternal fellowship between the Creator and his people. The image of a bride reflected joy, celebration, covenant, and lasting commitment. Rather than presenting heaven as distant and unreachable, John's vision portrayed God bringing his dwelling place to humanity. It was a powerful reversal of the separation introduced in Eden after humanity's first disobedience. What had been lost at the beginning of the Bible was now fully restored at its conclusion. Then a great voice echoed across John's vision with words that have comforted countless believers throughout history. Behold, the dwelling place of God is with mankind. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. In ancient times, God's presence had been associated with the tabernacle in the wilderness, later with the temple in Jerusalem, and ultimately through Jesus Christ. Now the separation between heaven and earth disappeared entirely. God's presence filled everything. There was no barrier, no veil, and no distance remaining between the Creator and those who belonged to him. It was the fulfillment of promises spoken by prophets across centuries. Every longing for God's presence reached its perfect completion in that single declaration. Humanity would no longer search for God from afar, because he would live among his people forever.